This has been probably one of the most, I have to say, emotional conventions I think that I have ever attended. I have been touched so deeply by all of you, and I want to personally recognize Walter Reddy, who has come forward and worked extremely hard to be a part of this democratic process. I respect all that you are doing and how hard you have worked to protect and advance our democracy. I want to especially recognize some of my colleagues, John Fry, John Hetherington, Joe Fuchs, Gail Lavia, who ran from her convention this evening, where she was unanimously endorsed for a very good reason, because she's one of the hardest working, and you talk about me as hard working, one of the highest and very hard working state representatives who I admire so greatly and who I have deep affection for. I think we should also recognize those among us too that rise up and work so hard. We have our RTC chair from Wilton, Al Albert, who's here, Desiree Soleil, who's here from Westport, Bob Hebert, who was just the past RTC chair, Will Duff, the chair of the Bethel RTC, Michael Kalin was a former RTC chair for Wilton. We have Eileen Buckley in the back, who has been a long-time former member as the Republican registrar in Weston. And two of our great state central individuals here, Annalisa Stravato and Alan Levy, as well as wonderful Alex Carcinini, who has helped our party for so many years. I cannot thank you, Hal, Michael, and Joe for some of the most generous, kindest, inspiring, and humbling words of support. It's really hard for me to get that out because it fills me up so much, I have to tell you. But I have to take this opportunity, and I hope you bear with me, for a couple of remarks that I think are really, really important. First of all, importantly, I gratefully accept your endorsement for another term in the state Senate. It has been an enormous and great privilege to represent you in the state Senate for these years, and you know I don't take this responsibility lightly at all, or ever take any of it for granted. I thank you for your vote tonight, but for also your support, but mostly I want to thank you because when I look out there, I see you all as friends. You have given me a special friendship that makes this job so much more rewarding. It actually lifts some of that weight in a job that can be considered grueling. You make it more enjoyable and definitely more rewarding. I love campaigning with you, Al. It is so much fun, along with Eileen and the rest of you too. Serving as a Republican in a one-party rule, bluer than blue state that we are, can seem actually very daunting. But we've done our very best, all of us in the room and others that are in your party, to stop some very, very taxpayer and business unfriendly bills and have been successful in more than a few cases. Our momentum is picking up, in fact, and as the public is finally waking up to the fact that what is happening actually in Hartford has more influence over your lives than what happens in Washington, D.C. The Gallup poll that was recently mentioned, it's actually the governor's performance report card, recently released that 1 out of 2 people in our state want out. 50%. That's downright embarrassing. Our state is in worse shape than Detroit, warns the president of the Connecticut Society of Certified Accountants. But you don't have to pick up the newspaper to understand that Connecticut is in serious trouble, and we're talking about trouble with a capital T. Because you know, the rest of this public is living this reality every single day. This Democratic governor and his majority leadership have enacted some of the highest, most intrusive, anti-business budgets and legislation in the state's history. They've spent more than they take in. They've underfunded obligations run up to the state's credit card. They don't pay down state debt, and they raid every account that they can get their hands on. When tax revenues go up and spike, in fact, go down, that's what I meant. Boy, I just came from the doctors and I have dilated eyes and I'm having a hard time seeing all of this. When actually our tax revenues go down in spite of the very historic tax increases and jobs disappear, the other side acts very surprised. And then they immediately start to deflect attention from their failures. They play the blame game. We've heard it many times. Past presidents, Bush 1, 2. They could 3, they would. Reagan, the sequester, capital gain changes. But if that were true, then other states would have the same challenge. And they're not. They've recovered. The Democrats and the governor shut out our very detailed, no tax increase budget alternatives because they become so addicted to spending that they can't admit defeat. The public's not buying it this time, though. They become and began to really realize that you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. We desperately need change in leadership in Hartford, and I think this time we're going to get it. Now, in the event that some in May, and this is a very hot seat, by the way, and there'll be many coming out as the months progress, they may try to paint some of us as career politicians. It should be noted, and you should remind them, that unlike Washington, D.C., Connecticut has a part-time citizen legislature. I, like many of my colleagues, have always juggled my private sector professional career alongside my state responsibilities. And yes, it's a very hard job, a stressful job. Getting home at 3 a.m. after hours of debate to stop bad things from happening, or moving local or regional projects forward, endless public hearings that can go 12 to 14 hours or even longer, months of researching and studying multiple issues, conflicting local events and obligations, and responding, this is the most difficult part, responding to heartbreaking constituent problems. And then we fight really hard to keep our seats in Republican hands by overcoming tough, often nasty campaigns and opponents. No one really knows, except for my fellow legislators and their family members in this room, in fact, just how difficult it can be to hold such a public position while life comes along that could emotionally wipe you out. Births, marriages, sickness, tragedies, divorces, death. These can occur, it seems, at the worst possible times that put one in conflict with their legislative work. Just yesterday, Senator John McKinney lost his wonderful mother to her brief but devastating aggressive battle with cancer. And yet, we must show a public face, not letting them see you sweat or show a sign of weakness. Even as personal challenge can reduce one to the broken-hearted mortals that we really are. But by God, what an extraordinary, exceptional opportunity that you've provided us to play such an integral part in our democracy, to be your voice. What an awesome responsibility. There's much more to do to turn the state around, but all of these things can be done with political will. They can be done. But it will require public acknowledgement of the severity of the problems, frank conversation with stakeholders like state union leaders and educators, and an honest exchange of ideas across the political aisle, and an open door to collaboration. Thank you, Dale. Most residents recognize that year after year of state budgets containing higher spending and unrealistic budget projections do not reflect the real world that we know at all. They see Hartford leaders just fiddling, almost like Rome is burning. They would like us to find actually a financial extinguisher to put out that fire. With responsible and realistic budgeting and lower costs for taxpayers and businesses, we will start the rebuilding process. For most of us, this can't start soon enough. Again, thank you so much for placing your trust in me, and I'll do all that I can to continue to earn it every day that I have this job and this responsibility. Now, let's have a few refreshments because we have a lot of work to do. I can't thank you enough.